Welcome again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the local soccer show brought to you by Milan Weekly Podcast, guys. And also, I would be lying if I didn't say it's also brought to you by our great friends at Evangelista Sport. Guys, for women and children who are playing soccer, if you've been living under a rock in Montreal and have not been to Evangelista Sports, please, guys, go check them out. 6821 Saint Laurent. Guys, go there, have a nice coffee in our beautiful little Italy here in Montreal. For people abroad, they do ship. So please check out their website, evangelistasports.com, for anything you need in terms of soccer gear. They are soccer apparel king here in Montreal and in Canada. Guys, the local soccer show, again, just a brief intro to this. It's something that myself and Presidente always in the background in master control, taking care of getting us guests. So we talk about local soccer here in Montreal. We'll expand throughout the province. We've talked to guys like Mike Vitulano from Soccer Quebec, Sandro Grande on the club side at FC Laval, and we're gonna go more and more and more. And guys, the conversations are gonna get tougher and tougher, and we're gonna get more and more into the nitty gritty of things. And guys, I would love to welcome a returning guest. He was gracious enough to come on the show during COVID, and I'm happy to have him back again. Marco Masucci is here with us tonight. Marco, welcome.
Thanks, Stevie.
Marco, second time returning. This time we're returning and we're getting out of COVID. And not only are we getting out of COVID, but personally and professionally for you, you've made a change too. So, for people that don't know Marco Masucci, just introduce yourself to Milan Weekly Podcast, a local soccer show, viewers on the live stream, and when we start blasting it everywhere on social media.
Thanks, Stevie. Yeah, I was at last time we spoke. I was at Soccer Quebec, working with the licensing program from Soccer Canada, evaluating clubs, working with clubs across all of Quebec. 2 years in, decided to go on my own and with a partner, obviously a former colleague from Soccer Quebec as well, Dominic, and we've decided to dive a little bit deeper into the local soccer, but not just soccer. Actually, we're working with some other sports at the moment, which is really fun. First time for us doing that as well. So basically, just privately consulting clubs, different levels from the financial side to the technical side, admin side. So basically, whatever a club needs, we're happy to give them a hand with it.
And again, Marco, great for that there. And the last time we spoke, I was also very vocal about the financials and the structures of these clubs. Again, it's amazing that you're stretching away from your comfort zone, which is soccer. But if you could explain to them, and again, this is again selfless plug, and for you and the guys and girls at Avant Sport and Leisure, which is the new business venture that Marco and his partner have taken on. Give us a little intro on what Avant Sport and Leisure do for a club that's either starting up or needs to ship up or ship out.
Look, the thing I learned when working at Soccer Quebec was that there's a lot of clubs and there's a lot of regions, and Quebec's a really, really big province. So it's really difficult to be able to have an effect and really impact all those people when you're trying to help 100 something clubs at the same time. It's very difficult to have a lasting impact on any of those clubs, really. So what I found, one thing that bothered me when I was at Soccer Quebec, although I really did, I loved my time and I loved working with Mike and the guys up there, was that we were often evaluating people, auditing clubs, and trying to get them to a certain level, but we never gave them the tools necessary to get there. And the tools, I mean, we prepared guides. I had a 50-page guide for clubs that we tried and give them all the stuff, but at no point were we able to really go into the club evaluate what's going on and say, look, maybe this person needs to be doing X, Y, Z instead of what they're doing right now. Maybe your budget is not efficient. Maybe you're spending in the wrong areas. It's impossible to do that because there's so many of them. So it's not even to say, we're trying to do a job that Soccer Quebec or Hockey Quebec or Soccer Canada or whoever it is can do, because the reality is, I personally don't believe it's the federation's job to do that. You don't see the FIGC going into some club somewhere, in Campo Basso and telling them that they're not running their organization properly. So I don't think it's necessarily their mandate, even though they're trying to do it, which is fantastic. But we created a good base of what the expectations are, but now you're lacking the manpower, you're lacking everything to be able to really go in there, dive deep, and evaluate the club properly and offer them these tangible solutions. So what we do now, we work with much less clubs, but we work with them, daily. We're there almost as employees, almost as full-time consultants, to make sure that they create the right foundation. And our objective is, after 6 months or a year, whatever, as soon as our mandate is done, we're out. You guys are self-sufficient, and you don't need us anymore unless you want to, work on something different that we didn't talk about yet. So I'll just give you the quickest example. We're working with one club, a big club. They had merged not too long ago. Mergers cause a bunch of problems. Board of directors, budgets, employees, and stuff. So we started with them from the beginning. We're getting them on board with everything from the governance. So we're putting policies in place for their board of directors, for their CAs. We're putting the policies there to make sure that everybody knows what their roles are. They know how to behave in these meetings, right? Because we've all been in them, or you go in these meetings and one guy's talking about, yeah, there's one kid that his jersey was too small. And, these are not things that should be discussed in those meetings. You should be goal-oriented, focus on objectives, and are we hitting those objectives or not? That should be the meeting. Everything else is for the employees. So we work with, setting up those policies there. Then we're talking about the financials of the club, full scan of the financials, see if we could cut trim some fat, invest more on the technical side, invest more on where the club needs marketing, communication. They need help on getting the message out to their members. We do that with them. Technical side, that's where I jump in, coaching education. And we have an intensive coaching education program where I work with the technical directors. I work with the staff. I work with all the people on site at the CDCs, U12 and less. Obviously, a little bit of an unfair advantage because I sort of created the book, but it's good. You get in there, and from my mouth, I try and sell the Soccer Quebec and Soccer Canada philosophy, which maybe they never got that philosophy straight from somebody who really believed in it and understood it. So I think it's positive. But basically, Stevie, whatever a club needs, we could do for them. And the way we like to start is, let us give you a full diagnosis. We'll come in, diagnostics, right? We'll give you a full diagnostic of the club. We'll look at every element, see whatever red flags we pick up, and we'll give you solutions. And if you want us to help you implement the solutions, we're there for you. If you want to do it yourself, you do it yourself, and we back off, and we move on.
Yeah, no, and it's really interesting there. And again, for Milan Weekly Podcast, if you watch and everybody else watches, my famous saying, and it's true, I never prepare. But I think for the local soccer show, I need to give people, and I need to prepare, right? So, and looking at what you guys do, for me, the thing that interests me the most, and again, there's two things. One is the organizational structure. And you touched on it a bit as well. Coming from where I am right now, I'm just very interested on how you guys step in to a club which either is, again, like you said, merging, brand new, or has been around since 1970s, and change that philosophy, change that organizational structure. Can you just give everybody a little rundown and say, what is the ideal organizational structure needed for, let's stick to soccer because it's the local soccer show. It may be different for other sports, but let's focus on soccer. What's that ideal organizational structure?
Do you mean
I mean, I'll give a little bit more.
Yeah.
Again, it's a loaded question, but
Yeah.
let's say a club that's not prepared, no governing board, not
Sure.
very transparent in terms of how the presidency works, no social media, no communication with the parents,
Yeah.
very old school. We're practically writing things a la Flintstone on a rock
Yeah.
and hoping that someone picks it up.
Yeah.
How do you guys step in and fix that?
Okay. So, good or bad, depending how you want to interpret it. A very nice thing about being on our own right now is that we work with clubs that want to work. That changes the debate completely, because at Soccer Quebec or at any federation, you have to work with everybody and try and help them as much as possible. So one thing that I felt often is that we're taking clubs, we're trying to convince them that they need to modernize themselves, that they need to get better, and we're dragging them across that line to try and get them there. And that was really difficult, because you're getting into arguments with people because you're trying to tell them, the kids are paying for a service. You're charging kids X amount of dollars for the service. You are not allowed to give them zero. You are not allowed to not give them a service, right? Okay, I understand it's a community club. We're not talking Real Madrid, but there's certain boxes you have to check. And if you're not checking those boxes, somebody has to be accountable. Now, the structures that we have here in Quebec for a lot of organizations, not just sports, it's based on these board of directors. Now, the board of directors, in theory, doesn't need any sort of competency to apply for it. You could be, I don't know, a person that's never worked in a business, a business environment one time in your life, and you could become president of an association. You could be somebody that doesn't understand governance, doesn't understand fundraising, doesn't understand finances, and all of a sudden you find yourself at the helm of one of these organizations. So the question, the comment that I often get is, well, we have to do something, replace the guy. The first problem is nobody wants to do it, Steve. That's the first problem, and that's a big problem. Is that when you're telling people volunteer for this position, everybody's good to complain, but when it comes time to step in and you see, okay, now I have to get criticism, I have to get complaints from parents, I have to have people bothering me, I got to go to these meetings, I got to be accountable. If the club loses money, it's on my head. Whoa, I don't feel like doing this. So there's not that many people that want to do it. So you sort of take whoever you can get. You get good ones, you get bad ones, like every other business or every other organization, right? So the one thing with us is, because you're hiring two people that worked in the structure, when you call us, you're that person that wants the club to be better. So when we come in there and we say, okay, we got to do this, 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 already the person's with that mindset, like, great, these guys are identifying these problems. What do you need? How do we do it? Let's work with the personnel. It's a very different thing than that club that's trying to hide everything, and we come in sort of over the top and try and take over, which is not the type of client that we get. So the question, it's not that I'm trying to escape this, Steve. It's just I don't really have an answer, because the people that contact us are usually very, very open and willing to let us come in, see everything, and make their club better, because either they want a license, or they just want to do better, or it's a new president that's really enthusiastic, he wants to shift, or it's a board of directors, like you said, from a merged club. They can't really come up with their philosophy and all that stuff, so we bring it all together. So it's a little bit of a niche type of market. But if I had to answer the question, how would I do it? I would prove to them that by offering a better service, you would retain more members. That would generate more money. That would allow you to hire more staff. That would allow the service to get even better. Now you're retaining even more members, and there's a cycle there.
Yeah.
So it's an investment and not necessarily an expense. We see it as an expense, but it's an investment. You offer better service, you retain more members, generates more money for the club, and it keeps circling around, right?
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. And I figured that it was going to be a tough question, but exactly
It's a good
that,
question.
right?
Yeah.
Vinny Gattuso chimes in from Montoy. Vinny does
You guys,
personal
you
great
guys let
friend,
anybody on this show, I guess.
great friend of mine, Romanista, all the
Yeah.
time, listens to Milan Weekly podcast, chimes in. His beautiful girl plays, fantastic player at Montoy,
Yeah.
and he does a fantastic job with the kids. So seeing Vince transform into the cocky kid who would deke someone and go sit on the bench to teaching kids is something that I'm very proud of him about. But he has a great question here, and it's something that we talk about a lot. And we'll get to, because we're in this. This is where I want to go.
Yep.
Are clubs getting too big, Marco? Can the clubs at this size continue to offer quality service?
Yes, they're getting too big. No, they're gonna have trouble offering quality service, but not because the model is not good, because they're not equipped to get that big that fast. So my ideal structure, if I had to blow everything up, I start from zero. Let's say there's I don't even know how many clubs there are anymore. Let's say there's 160 clubs across Quebec. Some of them are in remote areas, so you need them to be around. Let's talk about Laval. Laval had 6 clubs. Let's talk about Montreal. They had 14, 15 clubs, small clubs
Yeah.
with 200 members. Okay, so my ideal structure would be the least amount of clubs possible. Least amount of clubs possible. Because the way I see it is, even in, let's say Laval or Montreal, like RDP, for example, RDP. So let's say RDP, does RDP really need to have a secretary, a technical director, a president, a whole board of directors, when they're right next to Montreal North that has a technical director, a secretary, a board of directors, who's right next to St. Leonard that has a technical director, a secretary, a board of directors, who's next to Pointe Autonome, and vice versa, right? So why can we not consolidate? So you need less good people because already there's very few good people. So you need less good people. So now if you have one guy, right, that's a director, and one guy, a top-notch president, and a top-notch technical director that goes and picks his people and hires and trains his staff. For me, it doesn't make a difference if there's 1,000 kids or 5,000. You're just multiplying the same service in different areas. So you wouldn't have, let's say, one site. You would still be operating in RDP, St. Leonard, Pointe Autonome, but it would be overseen by one team of people, and you would save money because you don't need to hire 15 different, registrars, secretaries to send out emails. You wouldn't need to hire 15 different technical directors. You would have, one main guy or girl, and then you have a bunch of, site leaders, zone leaders in every area. So you could save money, but it's dependent on having the right president and the right direction on top, and it trickles down all the way. It's the same argument like, how come Costco is able to run and make billions of dollars? Meanwhile, the mom and pop grocery store, which is much smaller, should be able to offer better service and everything. How come they're getting crushed by these bigger people? Because it's just a different, it's a different business model. It doesn't mean that one is right or wrong, but you need to have the right people in there.
Yeah. No, it's very interesting. The concept is great. We have another question from Claudio Romani. Should each association be free to structure as they wish, or should it be standardized to make the service better for all kids and parents?
Let's try and I don't know if Claudio's there and he can specify. Let's try and guess what structure means. Are we talking about staff? Are we talking about the programs? Are we talking about what they are, like? What does structure mean? What's that definition?
We'll come back to it if Claudio's there for sure.
Okay.
Let's talk about you mentioned it a couple of times there, and again we touched on the organizational structure was more for me.
Yeah.
For me, I get what you're saying. Everybody's close. You're multiplying. Your duplication of positions is across the board, no matter where you are. Again, on the admin side, obviously.
Okay. Well, I think there's a very big difference between clubs right now in different areas, even clubs with the same licenses or whatever it is. Personally, I really believe that there should be a minimum standard across the board. I don't think clubs should be free to make these type of decisions because, again, who is making the decision? You have one good guy or good girl at a club. They're free to make that decision, right? But how many of these clubs are equipped with these people that have the competencies necessary to make that decision? So now you're going to depend on volunteer people. You're going to depend on volunteer presidents, and some presidents, God bless them, they give their time. They don't know anything about the sport. They don't know any. They're just there because their kid plays. They want to give back to the community, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you can't give them decisional power now.
They
to make these
cannot.
kind
They
of choices.
cannot be. And I agree. They cannot be accountable for decisions that they're not qualified to make decisions on. That for me is something that touches me a little bit more. Like for me, that's what I would like someone like Soccer to Quebec to step in, or yourselves again. But yourselves always, it's a business venture, and it's more personal. Like you said, these are clubs that want to work with you. But Soccer Quebec, and this is something that I told Mike Vituano as well, they need to start to flex a little bit of the muscle. It's nice, everything goes to the top, everything trickles to the top. There's money, we're not lying here. Money flows to Soccer Quebec, but Soccer Quebec at a certain point needs to pony up and say, you know what, your club, you're not doing it right. Because in doing research on my own, I have certain clubs that they punch me in the face. The General Assembly is this day. Come all, come one, come all. There's other clubs that I go to their website and I can't find even the phone number to contact them. This can't continue like this. And I'm proud of you because you went from, I'm gonna say, don't take offense, with a cushy job where Soccer Quebec, it's nice, you're up there, to something where you're grinding, you're rolling up your sleeves, and you're going into these clubs, and you're telling them whether they want to work for with you or not, that they're not doing things right. And we know, and I'm not gonna generalize here, but from past experience and my own work experience, people don't take constructive criticism very well nowadays. They take it as an insult, like
Yeah.
you know more than they know. And that's not fair to the kids, because in the end of the day, the kids are the ones that suffer. We can say all the nice things. We can say, everybody can say, I'm there for the kids. I love the kids. I want to see the kids develop. But if the structure on top of these people that are saying these words is not correct, local soccer and Canada, Quebec, all the provinces can do whatever they want with whatever licensing program they want. If the decisions are not made by qualified people, the kids in the end are the ones that are going to suffer. So for me now, I want to touch with you on this magical license. Now that they brought in these licenses, everybody wants a license. When we spoke with yourself, with Mike, a while back ago, we were talking about you guys were starting this, and you took the courageous jump with Soccer Quebec to start this licensing program during probably the worst possible time, COVID. But in the end, blessing in disguise, you swooped through the province and you were able to put this licensing program together with governance and guidance from Canada. Talk to us about your experience going through this licensing, I'm going to say, putting together this licensing program, what you liked and what you didn't like.
Um, what I liked and what I didn't like. Personally, for me, getting a chance to meet a lot of people, which you see them, he's the technical director of another club. You never really speak to them because we have this really negative, toxic culture here in Quebec where everybody chooses to dislike other people if they're
Why?
threatened.
I can't believe that. And that
Yeah,
was something that I talked about. I talk about multiple times.
yeah,
This should not only be a sharing within the club, and it's become a empire creating exercise here in this
absolutely.
in this province. I see.
Yeah.
Instead of these guys who have this amazing soccer knowledge and experience that no one has the same experience, why do we choose as a soccer culture in this province to divide instead of come together?
Look, being at Soccer Quebec, I try to encourage that. Being at Soccer Quebec, I started putting together these monthly meetings, roundtable discussions with the clubs. So the clubs used to meet. We used to bring up some topics. We used to talk a little bit and create a little bit of club harmony. And again, 5 6 months I'm not there. I don't know if that's still going on. If it's not, I have no idea. But I think that was the solution to get the clubs and listen to the clubs, because as Soccer Canada and Soccer Quebec are in positions of putting together regulations and putting together structures, the clubs are the ones that need to live with these structures every day. Having worked, okay, and this is, I could be the dumbest guy around. You could criticize me for whatever you want. The one thing I have that not many people have is I have worked for clubs, I have worked in regions, I have worked in Soccer Quebec, and I even had a bit of time working as an assistant, helping out with the national team a little bit. So going all the way from top to bottom, I've seen the structure. So at Soccer Quebec, a lot of the things that have happened over the past 100 years is that people, make decisions based on theory. Now you make that decision, now you throw it to that guy on the field. Is the guy on the field equipped to handle what you're putting in place? Is the guy on the field, does he have the necessary staff to execute what you think is a good idea, but are you catching the reality of it over there? I remember, I'll just give you, one example. I don't want to ramble on this, but at one point, I think when you were playing probably, or a little bit after, there was like that player, you weren't allowed to move. You weren't allowed to change club. You had to get all those fake addresses and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, to get a release, the magical release.
You have to get a release. And now there's a club. There's a group of volunteers that decide whether a child is allowed to leave an organization where they're unsatisfied with the service. Think about that for a second. What happens if that kid was being beat up, bullied, abused, raped, whatever? What happens if that kid wanted to get as far away from that club as possible, but they weren't allowed to leave? Because that's a bunch of people in a room that make a decision based on, let's protect all the clubs, make sure all the players stay there as long as possible. I'm for that. But the underlying assumption is that the club is offering a minimum level of service, safety, and everything to these parents and kids. A lot of the clubs are not, Steve. So when the club is not offering a service and they're charging you money, how can you tell a client, you have to stay there and pay money or else you can't play soccer? No problem. Then I'm going to go to hockey. I'm going to go to football. I'm going to go to baseball. I'm going to go to another sport. And then we come back and we talk about how important we are as a country, as a province, as a continent. The United States has the same argument. We want to keep kids in the game. That's not keeping kids in the game. That's giving kids a garbage experience and not giving them a solution. So these type of decisions that are made, and we joke about it, we used to joke about it all the time, even at Soccer Quebec, is you make a joke, you make a decision sort of based on from an ivory tower, right? It's similar to politics.
Yes.
Politicians make decisions. Yeah, we think this works. You don't see the guy that's losing his job that can't eat. You don't see that person that's starving on the street, right? So whenever these decisions are made, vertically that way, and you don't include the people that these decisions affect, it'll never work. It'll never work. So the licensing program came in. I got a chance to meet every technical director of every club that applied for any sort of license.
Hold on. Before you go on,
yeah,
please reach out to those guys because they need to be guests on the local soccer show moving forward. Thank you.
No problem. I met a lot of these guys, and there's very good ones, very bad ones as well. And
and it's okay. But you know what? It's okay. And it's fine to say that because not everybody is good at their job, and it's okay. But someone needs to be accountable to tell them that they're not good at their job.
But let me go further than that, Stevie. A technical director gets hired from a club. A technical director has a job for, signs a contract, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is, okay? How many of these guys do you think know what they're evaluated on? Like you at work, and I don't know what you do where you work, but you, at a certain point, you have either a production quota, a sales quota, you have customer service satisfaction. Everybody has a metric, which I can sit down with you at the end of the year and say, Steve, you know what, this year, you did a fantastic job, here's a bonus, or Steve, be careful because another year like this, and we might have to let you go. What's the metric as a technical director?
There is
your whole team could be in shambles, but one of your teams goes to a national championship, so you're good? Half your club quits? What's the metric? It doesn't exist. It's not winning and losing, Stevie. That's not a metric because you've got 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 kids, and 90% of those kids don't play soccer to win and lose games.
It has to be a tangible, attainable goal. It's like that in business. Myself, I'm a project manager. Yeah. I am judged at the end of the day on how the project is delivered. It can be late. Same thing as a technical director. It cannot go the right direction. but I need to fix it and not do it again. Do the same mistakes again
Yeah.
on the next project.
Yeah.
The problem that I see, and just to add on to your point,
Yeah.
is I see some technical directors
Yeah.
get hired, then get fired,
Yeah.
then get rehired,
Yeah.
then get fired again,
Yeah.
and then get rehired again.
Yeah.
That's a serious problem.
Absolutely.
That's God rest his soul, Palermo, crazy
Zamparini,
owner, crazy owner of
Zamparini, and Guidolin, I
Zamparini
think.
Express. That's
Yeah.
Zamparini happening right now in front of our eyes.
Yeah.
If you fired him and you rehired him again, and then you fire him again,
But
there's a problem.
but wait, I'll even interject because although I think it was horrible, and Guidolin kept going back, and Guidolin's a very good coach, by the way. But there's a way to evaluate Guidolin. If he's fighting for relegation, Zamparini has a right to make that decision because it's black and white when you're coaching pro soccer. You win, you lose, right? In youth soccer, we don't give, and this is something when you came back, and this is, what do we do for clubs? We give board of directors dashboards, right, with metrics, with indicators, KPIs, like in business, KPIs
Yes.
that basically says at the end of the year, you hit this one needs to be worked on. Let's create a plan of action, and this is what we're discussing at board meetings. So after that first year, if the guy missed, I don't know, 7 out of his 8 objectives, there's a serious conversation that needs to be had. Are the objectives maybe crazy? Are they not? Let's discuss it together. But at least the guy sees it coming, or the woman sees it coming, and they can adjust. They can hire a person. We hire and fire people just based on if a parent complained, just based on nonsense, complete nonsense.
We gotta bring up the my kid didn't make the team. That's another one that I've seen, and that's sad.
Yeah.
That's really sad.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. And I did not know. Again, I figured there was not any metrics because there's not that many people that are qualified to provide metrics. I was under the impression that those metrics or some kind of guidance came from Soccer Quebec. Now we're saying that's not coming for Soccer Quebec.
No, it's I don't think it's coming from I don't think it's coming from Soccer Quebec. Now again, if a club is a bit more open, and they have these discussions with guys like Mike, or Mike is very competent to give that answer. But a lot of these people, right, they won't do that because right now what happens is a lot of technical directors, they're trying to fly under the radar, self-preservation, and a lot of presidents are trying to fly under the radar, self-preservation as well. So they don't want to expose their cards. They don't want to put something on paper that says, Stevie, if you do XYZ, you're going to get a bonus and you've done a great job, because that means that now you can't just do whatever you want whenever you want. Now you're trying to run it like a business, and certain clubs, are starting to move in that direction, which is fantastic. A lot of clubs are still, a little bit further behind, but it's amateur soccer. It's at the beginning of this podcast, I wanted to ask you, like, every question you ask me about, the culture of soccer, we have to specify: are we talking, developing a player for the national team, or we're talking amateur soccer? 99% of these clubs, besides the Montreal Impact, is in the business of community soccer. That you could say whatever you want. We could say, guys like me and you could say, what, in that club, the coach doesn't know what he's doing, or they don't care, or they don't pay attention to the kid. That's fine. But at the end, the service that club is offering is not to make your kid a professional player. It's to make your kid enjoy, have a good time, touch the ball a little bit, and hopefully, if he's good enough, he ends up at the Impact one day. The problem is there's only one Impact. If there was 100 Impacts, like in Italy, where you have first, second, third, fourth, fifth division, that everybody's linked to other clubs, these are the guys that are churning the performance. And all of a sudden, you're president of a club. If you sell that one kid, you're going to be making $100,000 or $50,000 or $1 million, whoever it is. It's different because there's money on the line. Right now, it's volunteer structure, no professionalism. We have directors who believe that they're directors of Real Madrid. Meanwhile, your number one responsibility is to take care of all your clients. Now, if you have 2,000 clients and 1,600 of them are house league players, you can say whatever. Your philosophy could be whatever you want it to be. Those are your clients, and they pay. If those guys You don't want them in your club anymore because they're not high level players. No problem. They leave. You don't have a job anymore because there's nobody there to pay your salary.
Yeah.
So it's not it's there's confusion. People just don't
Yes.
understand what their job is. Their job is not to work as an impact reserve team. Their job is to keep as many little girls and boys in the game as possible, as long as possible. And if there is that kid that has a little bit more, try and give them a hand and push them, or pick up the phone and call Pat Leduc and say, Pat, I got a kid for you. I think you should take a look at it. That's where it ends.
And that confusion, Marco, comes from, are the clubs selling, are the regions selling these parents, these potential customers, a pipe dream?
You're
No
gonna,
problem. No
we're
problem.
gonna need,
Again,
no, no,
no.
no. I'm pausing because you're gonna need another. We're gonna need another podcast. But Steve, the one thing, okay, the one thing I've been I don't even know. I always say 20, but I'm probably about 23 years and I'm doing coaching and working in clubs. The one thing that I cannot digest and I'll never be able to digest, and I'll tell people to their face, these fake promises, these rumors, being able to take information that comes from Soccer Quebec directly on a slide and a poster and black and white, and you find a way to twist it and convince parents that no, no, that's not the real thing. Here's the real thing. We're going to show you what it is. And you continuously do that over and over. And then you're pretending that you're going to send kids to Europe and you're going to send kids to the States, and pretending that, if they pay you $2.99 a month for the next 6 months, they're going to get technically stronger, and you could have all these. This is poison. And for me, it's borderline illegal. It's as if I'm selling you a shoe with no sole and you pay for it. It's the same thing. I'm selling you a product that doesn't exist. And people get away with it. There's no regulation on it. There's academies that open and close every 2 weeks. And I question, at the end of the day, I question the parents. You're not happy with your club, no problem. So an academy starts up. Okay, let's sign up to the academy. What has this academy done? They haven't even ran one session yet. What credibility does that academy now have to say it's better than where you currently are? We have links with a million clubs all around the world. Get a couple of kids a scholarship, get a couple of kids a pro contract, and then you can start having a bit of credibility. It's these fly-by-night operations. It's these, everybody's trying to make a quick buck off a parent that's, parents are very easy targets, Steve. You love your kid, you want what's best for your kid. Somebody tells you, hey, your kid's a little bit special, changes your life, it's over. Now I've seen people. We used to run a summer camp in my old club. I had parents, and I had different kind of parents too. I had parents that used to send their kids 6, 7, 8 weeks during the summer in our summer camp. Some of them, would tell me, the kid has so much fun with you, he wants us to be there, no problem. Other people, mais s'il s'entraîne comme ça, il va aller à l'Impact l'année prochaine. Steve, it's and it's not just soccer. It's not
No.
fair to,
No, no, no,
hockey's
no, no.
probably a little bit
Again,
worse.
Marco, we said it. We said it at the beginning of the show. It's local soccer show. It's kind of generalized, and people, I'm pretty sure, they'll listen to it tomorrow or listen to it in 3 days from now. They'll relate whether their kid is playing in hockey, their kid is playing football, their kid is playing baseball.
Yeah.
This relates because amateur sports struggles and sells you the pipe dream sometimes that does not exist. And I see people dump a lot of money and a lot of money and a lot of money and a lot of money into a dream that they wanted to achieve. Might not even be their kid's dream. And that's the scary part. Further to that,
Often not.
yeah, often not. And further to that, those statistics of that less than 1% should be publicized everywhere, because it is less than 1% that will make that trip. And, God bless that less than 1%. And I'm saying this less than 1%, we're going really pro and so on and so forth. If your son or daughter is good enough even to get a scholarship, that's free education, something out of the ordinary that we would not do. And again, we're going to generalize, being of Italian parents, it wasn't something for us to leave home.
Yeah.
But nowadays, leaving home teaches you a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And local sports, myself, I wasn't the best player. I was blessed with parents who were brutally honest with me. It's not for you. Mangi troppo. And that was
But
something
you
that,
love the game,
but I love the game.
and you still love the game today.
And I still love the game today
So
now.
there's no correlation between being a high level athlete and loving the game and playing it. I'm sure you played Tolo Campo. I'm sure you played in all these. Okay, so who wins, Stevie? The guy like you that maybe you never played pro. You have a career, you lived your life, you love the game, you follow it, you watch it on TV, or that other kid that's doing soccer 7 practices a week. Kids, some of these kids, okay, in Sport are training 5 days a week at Sport 3 nights a week with their club and weekends, plus they play their game. Oh yeah, they love it, they love it. And then they quit at 15 years old and they never want to see a soccer ball again. That for me is a problem. That is a problem. Everything is good in moderation. And your kid that does 8 practices is not going to be better than the kid that does 4. Because the kid that's at Juventus Academy, the real Juventus Academy, not Juventus Toronto or Juventus Montreal, is training 4 times a week. But here we train 8. It's overkill. It's overkill, and psychologically, the kids, they have it up to here. And these are things where, the different associations, the different organizations, from Soccer Canada down to Soccer Quebec to the regions to the clubs, there has to be an alignment. To the schools, right? Our schooling system, CJEP universities, we cannot have kids playing AAA soccer while playing CJEP, while playing futsal, and then the second anybody speaks up, and I was one of those guys, and I got in a lot of trouble with the schools because I wasn't letting my players play school soccer. Excuse me. I was letting everybody do whatever they want, but I told them, if you're training 4 days a week with me, you are not doing 3 times a week soccer at school in CJEP, where they're doing 2-a-days. They're doing preseason in the month of August when I'm at the end of my season. So think about that. So they're running them twice a day, and then somebody breaks their knee, and then it's like, oh, what are you going to do? Well, I told you. I warned you, but I'm the bad guy for speaking up because, here we have a culture where let everybody do whatever they want.
And you
Guidance.
touched,
These
yeah,
kids
yeah,
need guidance.
guidance is, and we have another question that just it's from Claudio here,
Yeah.
and it touches a bit there. What are your thoughts on regions? Example: Montreal, Lac Saint Louis, and Concordia. Are they really necessary, or are they a waste of money?
I love the way these are very neutral questions. There's no are they a waste of money? Okay, so the structure is. I'll give you a bit of a history lesson in this. The structure originally was Soccer Quebec was, a smaller federation. They didn't have 150,000, 200,000 members. They had a few regions everywhere. And Quebec politically is divided into these 18 regions, right? So everything's very easy when you just keep that same structure and in the education system and everything. So Sport-Études, for example, are in regions, right? So you have some regions like, some regions where you have maybe 2,000 kids in the entire region, and then you have some clubs that have 6,000 kids in the club. So sometimes it's like, what's the point of it? So at the end, the reason these things existed were for administrative reasons. Because you know what? How is Soccer Quebec going to be able to keep an eye on what's going on in Saguenay, to be able to intervene what's going on in Côte-Nord? So yes, there is a reason why they exist. Did they become too big? Probably. Because now what happens is, like everything else, like with school sports now in Quebec, like with Sport-Études, like with regional stuff, like with futsal, everybody wants a bigger piece of the pie, and it's not only financially. Everybody, and I like to think it's for positive reasons. Like I think that
Yeah,
everybody just
it's
wants
a
to do
bit
more for these kids. I
exactly
don't think it's a negative thing.
more.
But now what happens is, you have the technical directors of the country, the province. Then every region has a technical director. Then every club has a technical director. Then the region wants to do regional selection programs. It used to be a couple. I used to coach it. It used to be, once a week for X amount of weeks, maybe like 10, 12 weeks. Then you go to the tournament. Your best players get scouted for Quebec team, and you're done. That was the objective. Then all of a sudden, it's like, wait a second. Why don't we offer it every Friday all year? And then it became, okay, so now we need to hire more staff. And now the region is running some regions, um, are running almost complete programs on their own. Meanwhile, the club is offering their complete program, and that kid that's doing the regional selection, that's doing sport and playing soccer with the club, that fake argument of how hockey is expensive, there's no comparison. That kid is paying about $5,000-6,000 a year to play soccer.
Wow.
Well, sport is 2,000 something, and you could say it's worth it or not. It doesn't matter. The point is, it's every day for the school year. You got to rent the facilities, you got to pay the staff. It's normal. The club is charging a good club now for the summer. In a teenage year, you're charging close to $1,000. I guess $800, $900, plus the winter, which is another 5, 6, depending where you are. RDP doesn't pay as much for their center. Saint Laurent, like when I was in Laval, we're paying almost $200 an hour for a quarter of a field. So the cost goes up, and that kid's doing all regional selection, which is another $400-500. At the end of the day, that kid's paying $4,000-5,000 to play soccer, and it's overkill because the kid doesn't need to be training that often, right?
Wow, this is eye opening for sure. And again, we touch on cost, so I'm gonna go to the big money item on this one, and it's one that interests me too. And maybe you could shed some light on it for me. This is again my personal opinion. Steve Polillo, local soccer show. I don't know. I'm not affiliated to any clubs. I have no ties to any club. But for me, a local soccer club should be almost run like a non-profit organization, where it has to be
Legally, they
transparent.
are.
Legally, they are. Yes. Again, this question to you
Absolutely.
is me doing research
Yeah.
and me trying to pick your brain, and so that you can
Yeah.
educate people correctly. Not Steve,
Sure.
because Steve doesn't have the forte for that,
Sure.
but Marco does.
Yeah.
The money, the transparency. Is this something that needs to be governed by Soccer Quebec, so that people who are paying money to have their kid inscribed at a local soccer club know where this money is going?
Uh,
Basically,
the
again,
right answer is yes. Okay, but the problem is what's going to happen is you're going to, again, it comes down to competencies, right? So if you ask me, let's shift it. Should the budgets of every club be overseen by, let's say, the regional people in every region, or the Soccer Quebec, which I know is not possible, so that's why I'm saying the region,
yes.
and make sure that it's audited and done the right way? Yes. If you open up those books to 2,000 parents, Steve, what do you think is going to happen?
Oh no, I get they will be scrutinized to the
every
max.
every point. And how come, so are they qualified? Is the typical parent qualified? Again, no offense to the parents. Are they
No,
qualified to look into the financial statements of a club and say, this club should be spending 175,000 and not 200,000 on their technical staff?
yeah.
Do they? Right. It becomes a little bit the philosophy of the club. It becomes all that kind of stuff. So do I think they have to be audited? Absolutely. And we were doing that. Myself and well, not myself. Dominic, my partner, was doing that at Soccer Quebec. We had all the budgets. There's a limit in terms of how much turnover you can have, how much money you can keep in a reserve every year. These things were regulated. They were regulated. Now, is there one club that says, I want to spend $300,000 and have 6 full-time technical people, and another club that says, I want to have one part-time guy? Yeah. So it's very hard to compare because, again, back to the structure, back to the question that Claudio asked before, should there be a basic structure for everybody? Absolutely. Like, I think there has to be at least a minimum. Then the higher level club, if they want to spend a little bit more and the parents are satisfied with the service and are willing to pay a bit more because they see that something's a bit better, then it's up to them to make that decision to go there, right?
Yeah. We talked about the parents.
Yeah.
Again, myself being a soccer parent, my son plays, and again, this is like we talked off camera and before we got on the show. This is why I do the local soccer show. I want to give back. I'm going to start getting more involved. How do we now? Myself, I consider myself one of those guys who, is lucky enough to have some contacts, is lucky enough to have some, a show like this where I talk to people who know. Again, my philosophy: my car is broken, I take it to the mechanic. I want to know about local soccer, I go to people who understand local soccer. How do we teach the coaches about this? How do we teach the parents about this? Like, how do we get this message out there about the clubs, about how we're running things? How can we be more transparent?
In a club, or you mean overall?
No, let's start overall and then fiddle it down to the clubs.
So that when we were talking about the regions, right? So this ties in. We were talking about the regions initially, how before Soccer Quebec sort of hired people to run every region. So it was as if, Soccer Quebec was Bank of Montreal, and there's a branch in Montreal Concordia, and there's a branch in Barassa. So there was a bit of a centralized control. For whatever reason, my opinion on this is not important, but for whatever reason, these regions became independent. So each region is different. Whereas, there's some regions that offer a lot more, charge a lot more, but, they're going to say, well, it's because our clubs in our region are not structured enough, so we have to step in and do it. That's a fair argument, and it's been valid for a long time. But today, we're asking clubs to get serious. So by clubs getting serious, that means the region now, you got to take a little bit of a step back, help them get serious and stop, eating the same client there and taxing the same person twice, especially in areas like Montreal, where, Steve, not every kid, and not every kid with potential has the financial means to be able to pay X amount of thousands of dollars.
Yes.
So all that being said, the regions were structured that way. The one thing that hurts now because of that, and I lived it at Soccer Quebec, is we come up with something. We're there, the guys, we brainstorm an idea. This is great. Let's communicate this with all our members. The channel is what? Okay, we put it on our Facebook page. Soccer Quebec is not like following your local soccer club. The majority of people don't care. Right? The majority of people don't care about the 0.5% of elite players that are in the national training center. They don't care. They just want their neighborhood club. So they're going to follow their neighborhood club's social media. They're going to, right? So we do an advertising campaign, and we ask everybody, people were having trouble selling the CDC philosophy and everything to parents. Take this clip, share it with all your parents, and go ahead. It gets to the regions. 50% of the regions don't share it with their clubs. The other 50% that share it with the clubs, 50% of the clubs don't share it with their members, because everybody is sort of independent in the structure, and everybody thinks Soccer Canada is the boss. And then Soccer Quebec has to listen to Soccer Canada, and the regions have to listen to Soccer Quebec, the clubs have to listen to the region. It's actually the opposite, Steve. It's the opposite. The regions were the ones who made up the board of directors to decide things for Soccer Quebec. And the clubs...
I just died.
Stop. The clubs are the ones that, in most regions, decide the budget and approve everything for the region. So the pyramid is actually inverse. So people, when they say things like, at Soccer Quebec doesn't exist. We're employees that work in an organization where the guidelines are established by the region. And not the regional technical directors for the most part. The regional presidents and administrators. So, again, like everything else, you got some brilliant people there. You got some brilliant TDs. You got some brilliant administrators. You also have some guys that either one, they're not qualified, or two, they don't care about the greater good. They care about their region and taking care of their own. So we're making decisions. It's as if the federal government can only pass things if all the provinces are in agreement, which is not how the federal government works. The federal has their own MPs, representation, whatever it is fine. But you can't expect the Quebec provincial government to care what's going on in Nova Scotia or Manitoba. He just cares about his own province, right, and for his own people. So this is a little bit the problem. So politically,
it's a shit show.
long story short, to get something from the top, transparent, like from the horse's mouth, and I know, because at some point, I was the horse, and Mike was the horse, and Soccer Canada was the horse, and we're trying to say, guys, what you see is not true. This is not what we said. This is not how it is. Yeah, but our technical director told us this. Yeah, but our regent said this. It's almost impossible because Soccer Quebec does not have the avenue to send you, Steve, an email directly to your name. Steve, you are a member of XYZ Soccer Club. We are Soccer Quebec. This is what we do. This is what we want to tell you today. They don't have that ability. So you're relying on regions and clubs to communicate other people's message.
Again,
Especially one thing that COVID taught us is, depending on what people believe, both sides, they'll make up whatever it is to pass their point. And it's a little bit the same thing with everything that has to do with politics and soccer. We're talking administration. We're talking politics. That's what it is.
This is something that I touch on with everybody, good or bad, and there's some good and there's some bad. The power of communication and social media.
Mm-hmm.
It shocks me,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why my head went down. It shocks me that let's say we're gonna call them again. You explained it for everybody. It's the inverse, but if we're looking at it, me as a simple soccer dad, I see Soccer Quebec as needs to be the one who governs the regions. And if Soccer Quebec cannot get a message to the parents who are paying for a service at the club, which is transformed into a payment to the region, which in turn the region pays the province, we have a serious problem. And that is very scary, because that needs to come from the governing body that is Soccer Quebec. That if they want to be able to send a message, they should be able to send a message. That really touched me. I didn't know that, and thank you for that, Marco.
We'll go one step further, Steve, because I heard a lot of things about the Canada soccer. Right? Everybody always craps on Canada. Not anymore. Now because 3-4 good players on the team are going to go off. Now Canada soccer is perfect. It was never that bad back then, and it's never that great just because, again, it's one team out of an entire structure. What has Canada soccer done in the past few years? They put together a licensing program, which was genius. They helped start a professional league, which is very important for our structure. The national team is doing well. They're doing stuff, and they've always done stuff. It's just the national team was always not representative of the stuff they did. So it was easy to criticize them, like it's easier to criticize Soccer Quebec. But again, Canada Soccer says, guys, it's not working. We need to put a licensing program in place. What do you guys think? If the provinces say, no way, leave us alone, program's dead. Program's dead. So you look up at the guy that you think is in control, but that person is only in control if everybody else gives up a little bit of power and says, you know what, it's time we work together. It's time that we start coming together. And credit to the provinces, because they finally did. And there was many years where some of these provinces did not even communicate with Soccer Canada. They were on bad terms. So it's ridiculous stuff. These are real stories, So you ask, how come things don't work out all the time? It's not as simple as the coaches aren't good. It's not that simple. There's a lot of structural things that come from many steps before it gets to the last product, which is the ball, field, grass. That's the last product. Before that, everything has an array of things, and even just with the licensing, like you said, the magical license. Everybody wants a license. We had a lot of leeway when I started on the licensing project. It was myself, Dominic, and the former technical director of Quebec Soccer before Mike took the job, Eric. And Eric gave me a lot of creative control with Dominic on the actual, what we wanted to look like. So we come up with a plan on what we want it to look like. By the time that plan gets approved, it's been seen by hundreds of people, holes poked at it by a bunch of people, and that original plan that we put in place, I'm not going to say it's completely different, but there's a lot of principles in there that I felt were necessary to make this work at 100%. Now, when we're bending a few things, now all of a sudden, okay, it's not the same product anymore, or now we have to come up with new solutions because we didn't think of this and this and this. And one thing is the competition structure. The CDC, is it good? My opinion, I've seen great run CDCs. They're fantastic. They're much better than Joe Blow coaching the kid by himself in the park. And there, maybe you'll get a good guy. Your neighbor's kid's going to get a terrible coach. The other guy's going to get a coach that doesn't show up to practice. At least now, the club that wants to do it properly, it's top notch. It really is. And I've seen some really good ones, I've seen some bad ones. But
I've seen some bad ones.
Part, now, okay, we're not going
to. I could tell you, I have seen some bad ones.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. You've seen bad ones, but okay, I don't want to get too much into the technical part because there's a million reasons why it's bad. But the point is, if it's run properly, it works well. The kids get contact, and like I see one of the things that Vince was saying, maybe for that D1 kid, it's nothing really changed, or at certain clubs, it might even be a little bit of a step down because maybe you did have that fantastic coach and you were only working with those 12 kids and things were okay. Now you have to open it up. You work with different people. So maybe for them, it's like, you know what? I don't see this revolution. But for all those other kids that were D2 or house league, now you're getting access to quality people, quality fields, quality training. And that D2 kid might become a D1 kid. That house league player, maybe he's going to stay house league. But at least the kid's having fun. Because before, they weren't even practicing that kid, right? So there's a lot of positives with it. Now, the part where it got a little bit, skewed is the competition structure. We had a competition structure in mind, which was game day is going to be Saturday. All the U9s will play Saturday in the region, and we'll play at a neutral site. Then, we don't have the fields. Oh, we can't do it. We've never played games on Saturdays before. We're going to do games in the middle of the week. So now all of a sudden, it's like, okay, how are we going to manage these kids if they don't have these official coaches anymore? Now all of a sudden there's a hiccup. Then the next one is, the region doesn't enforce the clubs to put a minimum number of teams. So one club is going to do one all-star team, smash everybody because they think that's what's important. Meanwhile, that other club that's playing ball the right way puts in 8 or 9 teams, and their 9th team is losing 28-0. Meanwhile, that club is following the rules and the other clubs are not. So these things have to be, we lived a year, there was COVID, it was hard for everybody. Now we have to do a recap and just bring it all back together and say, okay, what's good, what's bad? Again, include the clubs, what's good, what's bad, how do we fix this? And start fixing it, because the product itself is not bad. There's bad things about it, yes, but they could be fixed.
Yeah, and I talked about it with Mike as well.
Yeah.
Because of, again, we'll go back to the badly run CDC. Yeah. My question to Mike, and again, now I'm going to ask it to you, how we need a way to govern the way they run the CDCs. Like you said, some are playing ball, some are bending the rules.
Yeah.
Someone needs to govern these clubs at the club level, at the hierarchy of the club level, govern and say, why are you doing this, and educate them. And this is not the right way. Yeah. And this is the right way. And, bring light to those clubs that are doing it the right way. Yeah. We're not doing that. What we're doing is, like you said, they're finding a loophole. They're getting lenient in this magic licensing program to get this national license, where we're going to get to the point, Marco, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, we'll have every club at the licensing level, at the national licensing level. And then what happens?
The theoretical answer that comes from Soccer Canada is, if we have 30 or 40 national license clubs, that's the goal. I agree with that, again, in theory. If you're telling me now we got 30, 40 clubs operating like national clubs, we're light years ahead of where we've ever been. But they have to be operating like national clubs. And that is extremely, my job, Steve, was once the month of April came, not even April, because it was 2 years of COVID. So between May until September, I could have rented an apartment in Quebec. It would have cost Soccer Quebec less money than sending me there back and forth. I was there so often, and the visits, right? So I started with this thing at the beginning. What are we going to do? How are we going to police them, right? So originally, the former technical director, who I got along with well. He says, Marco, let's visit every club twice. I said, Eric, that's not enough. Not enough. Okay, 3 times. I said, I'd like to do 4 with the national clubs. National club 4, provincial club 3. Okay, that's fine. But the problem, Marco, is when you visit them, they're going to roll out the red carpet. I said, what do you mean? He says, when you tell them you're going to go, they're going to obviously be on their best behavior. I said, Eric, I'm not telling them I'm going. I don't know. And he was saying that's the right answer, but how are the clubs going to react? The region? I said, Eric, I don't understand
that's
how
not your problem.
you're going to make me go to Quebec and spend people's money to go to Quebec when the guy knows I'm going to show up. He's going to call every coach that's ever coached in that club over the past 100 years to come there and put on a spectacle. So we did surprise visits. And then you hear, well, it makes people uncomfortable. I know it does. And it is stressful. And, maybe I'm not the smiliest guy either. So maybe I don't contribute to that. A guy like Mike is a lot better than me at that. But my job was there to see if you're doing your job. That's it. And I separated the person from the job. I did 100%. Now, some people respected that. And even if they didn't get the license they want, they communicated. We're working with one of the clubs that I failed miserably. Because it was transparent, like you said, it was properly communicated. They knew the reasons. There was no ego there, and they just said, look, we messed up. We didn't take the process seriously enough. We didn't think we were going to be audited this way. We want to get better next time. Perfect. That's what we want to hear. There's other people that never spoke to me again because it's a personal vendetta against it, because they're embarrassed and they're humiliated. But at the end of the day, the job is not to embarrass you. It's just to say, if I'm giving you a bachelor's degree in something or a master's degree, Steve, it's got to mean something. Otherwise, everybody's going to have this master's degree, and it doesn't separate anybody from anybody else. We're just giving them away. So it was hard, and it became a little bit. It became taxing to always have to, like you're saying, you got to go see who's cheating and who's not cheating. You need an army of guys. You need an army, because me by myself, I did it 2 years and I'm burned. 2 years. You need 4 or 5 people that are going to go around, or ideally, you have people that work within the regions that could do it. But are you biased? Is that your friend in the region?
For me, with Mike, my suggestion was get people involved and cross pollinate the regions.
Yeah.
Region A, you get a task force of people. We'll go to Region B and we'll evaluate Region B.
Yeah.
This is the only way they do it, and non-biased. They have to have almost like you're selecting a jury.
Yeah.
And it has to be. It's sad to say, but we're in a world where people are jealous and people are sometimes malicious. But in the end, the message from Soccer Quebec, Soccer Canada is that this is for the kids.
Mm.
And that's lost in that now, because everybody's talking. I see friends taking kids out of this. Oh, this is not a good club. We're going to take him to this club because he's going to be coached by him and he's going to be playing with him. But in the end, is your kid really having fun? Again, we don't know.
The parents, and I know, we come from a little bit the same circle of people, types of people. So I'm sure your friends are exactly like mine, Steve. And these parents that pull their kid from one club to the next, I've never really seen a 9-year-old kid say that, I want to go to the club next door because that guy's going to develop me a little bit better. So these parents that are overbearing and they're the ones making these decisions and everything is bad and criticizing everything, the only thing that's going to happen is the kid's going to be like, but I had my friends at the other club. Why do I have to come to this club here? Now, if the kid does not want to be there because he's not happy or she's not happy, different story. But these parents are, like you said, living vicariously through their own goals and everything. And again, misconception. I see Mike Massa here, who I've known for about 20 years, says that's why I think having Ligue Elite was important. The Ligue Elite still exists. It's even more elite because there's only 7 teams now instead of 14. But that only starts at 15 years old as opposed to 7, 8, 9 years old. Again, so do we have, is the information getting to the person? And Mike is a bigger soccer guy than most in the community. It doesn't get there.
He has one flaw.
More elite now than
he has only one flaw. He's a Juvenile.
we could discuss off air.
He's a human being. That's the
That's
only
what I
thing.
meant. I didn't want to say the J word in front of all your listeners.
But it's right. But you see, like someone like Mike, who I know as well, not as good as you do, but through my compadre, met Mike and talking soccer. If someone like him doesn't know about this, how do you expect the regular soccer parent to know about this?
Exactly, it's impossible.
It's impossible to know, and again, I hope that this show gets, and I try my best. I go find the soccer clubs, I find their Facebook page, and I post it on there. Will you show it to someone else? Will someone see it and say, hey, these guys, he's ugly but he makes a point, like Steve is ugly but he makes a point. I'm okay with that, but let's get it to the right people, and I hope
Mhm.
parents take a look at it. And you don't have to be a Milanese, you don't have to be, you could be from any league. In the end, the local soccer show, it's to bring out things and to educate people. And again, thank you, Marco, for taking the time. And again, I said 45 minutes, but I'm always over with all my guests, especially guys like you. Let's finish off on a very positive note, because I want to congratulate you again for your new business adventure at Avant Sport and Leisure. Again, selfless plug. Tell people about Avant Sport, um, and what you guys do there and how they can get in contact with you.
Look, I'm not into the plug, so I'll just say if we gave a bit of a briefing at the beginning of all the services. If there's any clubs, any organizations, really, doesn't even, to be honest, it can even be a nonprofit, not even related to sports, that needs to just structure themselves, get a budget, work on training people. If there's anybody that's ambitious and wants to do better, and give us a call, and we'll see what we can do and how we can help every organization. I mean, that's pretty much it. We have, myself and my partner, I think we have a lot of experience in all aspects of the club. He's a lot more, accountant by trade. He did all the admin stuff for the licensing program, so everything on the administration side. The guy's a genius, and the technical side, I might just be one of these guys that starts saying how many years I've been doing it, but I've been doing it badly, maybe, I don't know. But on the technical side, I think I can help a lot of these clubs. And it's not about doing people's jobs, Steve. It's giving you that extra hand that, yeah, the thing for me is this: the coaching education is the most important, and I'm reading the comments at the same time, just having a hard time watching my kids play. The only thing that could mean is, sometimes the kids, they're young coaches, they don't really know what they're doing. I'm struggling, I don't feel like they're learning anything. Every club, their bread and butter right now, especially at the grassroots, U12 and under, is in coaching development. You want to take those 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, you want to train them the right way, equip them, put them on the field, so at least the kids are having a good time, they're getting touches on the ball. That's it. At 9 years old, that's it. We don't need to teach them all these moves and tactics at 9 years old. As long as the kid is getting a bunch of touches on the ball and competing and having a good time, that's all it takes. So when I was in my club, my old club, and I thought we did, to be honest, a very good job at the time. We wanted to do a lot of that, and we never did. We never did, because the second we're supposed to have a coaching meeting, there's some AAA team that needs somebody to replace somebody. There's somebody that there's some parents meeting I need to have. There's a board meeting I need to attend. You do one, two, they all get canceled. The thing with us, we're external. So whatever day-to-day garbage that you have to deal with and fires you have to put out, which is part of the job, it doesn't affect the fact that if you hire us to do a 6-month coach training program, you know that every Monday at 9 o'clock, or whatever the example, there will be a session there. Same thing for budget, same thing for strategic planning. There's a plan, we're going to help you follow it. So I feel like it's just that extra resource that you don't have to pay a full-time employee to do, because maybe you don't need a full-time employee. Maybe you need that guy that just come in and plug a few things, or just help you organize the structure. That's pretty much what it is. And inside that, it could be anything. And if we can't do it ourselves, we'll help a club find somebody that knows what they're doing, and then we'll lead them in the right direction.
Amazing. Again, Marco, thank you very much for joining the local soccer show. It's presented by Milan Weekly Podcast, which I'm also on Monday nights, 9 o'clock. If you guys want to join, we talk everything calcio soccer. But the local soccer show, guys, is really reserved bi-weekly for things like this, educating, whether it be parents, other coaches, other TDs, other presidents of clubs that, there is parents like myself, president in the back, that, want to get more involved, have not had that avenue to get involved. So we took it upon ourselves to do it this way. But again, it's all about the kids and sharing knowledge that might not get to everybody's ears, just because of, the society we live in, for whatever XY reason, and not harmful in any way. So again, I want to thank you, Marco. I want to thank President in the background, and everybody who joined us live. Guys, we'll post this tomorrow. We'll tag Marco if you guys want to check out his website. We'll put that in there as well. And again, Marco, thank you again. Presidente, take us away, because that's a wrap on the local soccer show for tonight. Let's go.